All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And first and foremost, again, we see your name already in how you showed up. And would love to see if you could just drop one word in the chat that describes just how you're showing up tonight. I'll just kind of get things flowing. We would love to just completely and truly engage. All right now. All right. So excited. Teresa, thank you so much for joining. You were definitely a fan. I love you so much for just showing up in all the ways. So thank you so much for showing up. And if y'all want to reach out to a friend and say, hey, join us, here's a Zoom link. Like, please do that. We will absolutely welcome you into the space. And so I want to go ahead and start off this evening just making sure you take a breath with me wherever you are, whether or not you're live or whether or not you are catching this on the replay, in your car, you're at the kitchen table, you're between bedtime routines, you're still in a moment in the quiet room because you didn't work the long day. You showed up, and that is what matters. And this is the first act of courage. This might be your 10th act of courage today because, you know, the life be trying to life us, right? I'm Craig Arrons-Martin, founder of CCM Education Group and also founder of Black Boy Joy Summit. And on behalf of our entire community, I just want to say welcome to all of you. Tonight's room holds parents, caregivers, educators, mentors, aunties, uncles, coaches, counselors, grandparents, and so many more folks who are community holders. People who continue to pour years upon years of love into Black and brown boys and young men, and who know deep in our bones that the love is not just necessary, it is absolutely needed in this time in a way that we can never imagine. And so you are here because you are more than love alone. That you are here for some tools and language and the courage to stay present when things get hard. And we want you to know that we want to continue to hold you as you hold your young person or young people with all the love that we can also extend to you, knowing that that love hopefully will help them to heal forward and find themselves holistically thriving in their being and in their bodies. And so that's why we're here tonight. I also want to make sure I give gratitude to every parent who rearranged their evening to be here tonight, to every educator who showed up after a long day of showing up in front of their young people, to every community member who forwarded this link, texted a friend, or said, hey, come with me tonight. That kind of investment in our community is what makes this work live. And I'm especially grateful tonight for our leaders, our sages for tonight, two people who don't just teach conflict resolution, they live it, who have built a life and a legacy around helping families and communities navigate the hardest conversations with grace and skill and love. And I want to formally introduce them in a moment, but I want you to know that tonight is a gift. Finally, I just want to again extend gratitude to you and to every Black and brown boy who might also hear this and see this, knowing that we are showing up for you. We want to love you forward. And we know that we may not always say it, we may not always show up with it in the ways that you need it. But the fact that you might also hear this, see this, or be in the room, we want you to know that this is an investment in you thriving forward. And thank you. So let me get right on it. Just check and make sure. I got some folks who let me see. Oh, okay. All right. We let some folks in. All right, we got a okay, we got a legend in the chat as well. All right, Charles Mentos, you know I see you. I see you. All right. So without further ado, let me go ahead and give an introduction to tonight's speaker so that they can get on into the magic of it all. Tonight, we actually have the extraordinary honor of learning from two incredible people who have devoted their lives and legacy to the work of conflict communication and restoration. We got Dr. Lynne Maureen Hurdle Price, who is a conflict resolution expert, speaker, coach, and trainer with over 30 years of experience helping families, organizations, schools, and communities navigate conflict with skills and courage. She's a true elder in this work, not just in years, but in the wisdom. Dr. Lynne has sat with some of the most complex, layered, high stakes conflicts imaginable, and that she has learned and that she now teaches. And that every conflict, no matter how big, carries with it a seed of deep understanding. She's a co-founder of the Conflict Closer, and tonight she's going to bring some of that expertise directly to us. And alongside her, someone who brings a perspective that's deeply personal and profoundly necessary. We got Justin Hurdle Price. So Justin co-leads the conflict closer as well alongside his mom, and his voice carries something unique: the lived experience of having been a black boy who is now a black man who continues to also navigate conflict, misunderstanding, and the need to be seen. He now channels that experience into wisdom that helps adults show up differently for the young people they love. His presence in tonight's room is not just an asset, it's essential. Please welcome Justin and Dr. Lynne Maureen Hurdle Price.
All right.
Greg, thank you so much. That's one of the best intros I've ever received in my life. So just an honor to be here. Thank you everyone for being here, taking the time to rock out with us, to learn alongside us, as much as we're here headlining this,
Right.
We very much are learning as we go and as we do these teachings. And so it's a pleasure. We're excited to be here, and thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I can't say it any better. So let's just hit it.
Let's go. Yeah. So I actually would like to start out with a quote, a really important one, and from a very important person. It's actually a quote from Malcolm X. It is his birthday today. So being that this is someone that I've definitely studied a lot, continue to study a lot, I figured it would be a great way to set the stage, just honoring him for a second through some very profound words on top of what we have to share today as well. So the quote I wanted to share, my favorite of all time from him: "If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, that's not progress. If you pull the knife all of the way out, that is not progress. Progress is healing the wound that the blow made." And I think that's really, really important. So happy birthday, Brother Malcolm, and let's get started.
Yeah, I love that quote too, because I think that that's something that is really missing. It's the healing of the wounds, and it's essential tonight that we talk about that. And just even the historical nature of Malcolm and Martin being projected as hard versus soft leads us to being here tonight to talk about this. I mean, both of them had toolkits, they both had strategies, they both knew how to use language to influence, stir, even calm and strike. And yet the setup was we had to choose between them. We had to choose being, oh, I'm Malcolm or I'm Martin, as opposed to doing what we do, our goal.
Yeah, our goal is always to add to your toolbox, never to take away, right? And if anything, in the adding to your toolbox, what will come with that, hopefully, is the upgrading of your entire infrastructure, right? So going from a toolbox to a full kit, right? To a section in your garage that you go and you work at, right? We want as much access to as many tools as possible for our young boys, so that we don't continue the suffering that we have seen that goes on through across generations, right? So yeah, that's our goal always, right? We just want to upgrade infrastructure here. That's all. We know that whatever it is that you've done up until this point has allowed you to survive, and now we're trying to help you thrive.
Yeah, and we want to help you to be able to access good decision making, while staying true to who you are, right? Because so much of our culture is taken away from us already, that we really want to make sure that what we're teaching resonates. And that's absolutely where we're coming from. You took a breath, Craig, but I'm going to do a little bit of parasympathetic breathing, because we teach as we go along, right? We don't have just the section where we're going to teach the skills. No, we're teaching the whole time that we are here together. So I want to just really emphasize the power of the breath. One of the things that I love about it is that it allows you to regulate yourself. It allows you to have access to your physiology. When your emotions start to take over, you actually can do something about it. And what I loved when I was in schools and teaching young people, especially our children, is you have the power within you, and you can take this anywhere you go, right? The breath stays with you. And so the more we learn about using it as a tool, the more that we will have access to some really good skills and some great and deep conversation. So I'm going to ask everyone if you would please just get comfortable in whatever it is you are sitting on, and notice your feet. Please place them on the ground, on the floor. And then notice your shoulders, because I'm a big one. My shoulders, I have to drop my shoulders because they're constantly rising, right? So notice your shoulders. If you feel comfortable to close your eyes, I invite you to do that. And if not, I invite you to focus on a point in front of you and just tune into your body. And I need you to notice where there may be some tension, discomfort, stress, and then give yourself permission to pay attention, give some attention to that area. So it may be that you need to do a neck roll, or you need to twist the neck, or raise the shoulders and drop them. Or sometimes the fingers need attention. We actually need to just give them a little massage. But let's really give attention to an area or areas of our body that are asking, please pay attention to me right now. Give me some love. Help me to de-stress. Yeah, let's do that now. And then staying with it, I want you to tune into the breath. Just notice how you're breathing. Try your best not to fix it. Just notice it. And then send gratitude to the breath. Really just be thankful that we're breathing. And now we're going to do a breathing sequence. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to breathe in through our nose to the count of 3. We're going to hold it to 3, and then we're going to release the breath to the count of 3. And we'll do that 3 times. So here we go. Breathe in through the nose. 2, 3. Hold. 2, 3. Now really release the breath. 2, 3. Breathe in through the nose. 2, 3. Hold. 2, 3. Release it. One more time. Breathe in through the nose. 2, 3. Hold. 2, 3. Really let it go. Check in with the body. Make sure the shoulders are still down. Body relaxed. Relax even more into what you're sitting on. Center ourselves to be fully present for the conversation we're about to have together. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. All right. So glad y'all are here. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to tell you why we're here. We're here because we are living it and dealing with it. So I always had this thing as a trainer, facilitator. I always said, I never asked the people in my group to do anything that I would not do myself. You're not guinea pigs. This is work. And once I started living this work, doing the work in my life, in my personal life, not just in my work, it has transformed pretty much everything about the way in which I live. And Justin, poor Justin, or Bless Justin, whichever way you want to see it. We work together. We have a television show together. We teach together and we live together. And we are in conversation all the time.
It's way more of a blessing than for me. So I just want to be very clear. I'm very grateful to work alongside you and to have learned under you. And yeah, it ain't always pretty though. It ain't. So
and that's the reality.
Yeah.
And that's what we know about this work.
Yeah.
If you are really committed to doing it and just continuing to work at it, it will create an incredible change. And so we really wanted to be here to have you experience with us, right? Not just what we do, but how we live. And one of the things I wanted us to start out with to talk about is this has been the opportunity in our lives has been to use these skills certainly throughout Justin's life. I have an older son, Jabari, and he's 6 years older, and have used it in his life as well. But I want Justin to just share something that we thought would be a really good way to start off.
Yeah, so this is a quick little story of one of the many times in school that I dealt with, authority and, teachers just not really meshing with me. This was my sophomore year of high school, and this was my English class, actually. And I didn't really like this class too much. I love English. I love writing. I love breaking down articles and all of that, right? So it was really unfortunate for me that this was a class I was reporting to and not, getting out of it what I was really hoping for. But there was this one day where my teacher is going around collecting homework, right? Regular start to the class. And in fetching my homework, I had this binder where it's pretty clear through like color coordination or whatever that each of these sections are going to be for different periods, right? So I had a math section, I had a history section, I had all that, right? And when I opened up to the English, got my homework and stuff, she had noticed that I'd written in my binder on, the page that I doodle with, it's got English and, a whole bunch of doodles around it. I wrote on it that this class is boring or this class sucks, one of the two. And I was like, I can't stand it. It was my own little doodle. It was my own little recommendation, my own reminder to myself, like, this class sucks, but, at least you're doing your work. And, that's what it was. And so this teacher sees it. I give my homework and she pretty much ignores the fact that like my homework's done. I handed it in and she uses that moment to stop the entire class and start to get into why I think the class is boring, why I think it sucks, why she was offended by that. And it was really, really interesting just to see how this woman was just like pressing me for answers on how I was feeling and my personal opinions that I wrote in my own personal notebook, right? It's my notebook, it's my property, right? And unfortunately, with the skills and with all of the teachings that my parents instilled in me, I gave her a good argument. I gave her the energy that she was looking for, which was a response and a turn up and a heightened tone and all these things. And I'd never been defiant. I'd never been anything like that. Just always questioning of, these people that are supposed to care so much about my future, have a role in, getting me to the next level and the next step. And this was something I felt like just, really used that opportunity to try to embarrass me, try to get a reaction out of me. And so it turned into this whole thing. Obviously, this was in a private white institution. So suspension was threatened. Parents called, all the stuff, all the things. And thankfully, nothing too serious came of it. But for something so small, this person really made it a much bigger thing than even I thought it was. And so to know that my future at that moment was in jeopardy off of just, my own opinion, that went to show me in real time that, as a Black man or boy, the consequences are just are just so not fitting to the crime.
Yeah. And I'm going to say that he's going to say, fortunately, it didn't get too bad. Let me tell you, unfortunately, I got the phone call. I'm in Ohio. I happen to be teacher coaching on social and emotional learning in an alternative school, special education school for children with extreme behaviors. So I'm in the office with the principal of that school, a white man. And I get off the phone and he's like, what's going on? And I told him, and he said, I just have one question. And I said, what's the question? He said, well, does the class suck? Like, is it boring? What was it? Feedback? What was it that made her go off on him? And so then I have to make the call. And the reason why it did not get worse is because I actually said to his principal, you're going to tell me you're going to suspend him over this? You understand the suspension rate for Black boys, right? You understand that that's higher than most other children. And you're really gonna suspend. And he said, well, you don't understand suspension in this school. It's actually in-school suspension. He's not gonna be out of the school. He'll be sitting in my office. And I said, and learning what and doing what, and what about the teacher? And
those go on your record. So that still doesn't look great for me. Like it still says a suspension on a record. So
I spent a lot of time in that school using my skills to help them navigate, negotiate, to help Justin navigate and negotiate with adults, and some adults, unfortunately, most of the adults that he had as teachers, who really didn't have the skills, or maybe thought they had, and they just didn't use them well. So we really want to be able to provide information and skills for people who really want to do better, because we all can do better, including us. And I'm going to tell you that those of you who have come here and you just really would love to see some kind of progression or movement with the child that you're thinking of and holding. As I said, Justin and I are doing this constantly all the time over the years, and it's not been pretty. But I'll tell you, just recently he celebrated a birthday and he went out. And while he was out, I found out something that he had done that really did not make me happy. And so I called him, and he was in his midst of his celebration in the restaurant with his girlfriend and his cousins and having a great time. And so what I love that he did was he said, Mom, it's noisy in here. I'm going to step outside so we can have this conversation, because I want you to say what you need to say. I want to be able to hear it. And then I want us to problem solve it, because the other thing that I want is to be able to go back inside and enjoy the rest of my birthday celebration. And I was just elated, even in the midst of, we're going to talk about this, right? I was like, one of those, some good skill work there, son. Yeah. And I said to him, I'm glad to hear that, because I too want you to have a wonderful self. I'm not here. I didn't call you to mess it up. I called you because it was important enough that we really needed to get this straight. It was amazing.
It was. And I will say, I can't stress enough how much trial and error that it took to get there, on both of our sides, because both parties, if there's more parties than one that are involved, they have to commit to wanting to do the work, right? So I'm very grateful that even while I was 100% in the wrong, I was still able to go back, have my birthday, relax. When I came home, I still got a hug. It wasn't this thing, that we're going to take into tomorrow, with negative connotations around it. And that was the biggest thing for me. And I think part of why we share those stories, and especially the first one that I shared around me being a sophomore in high school with that English teacher, is because there's this notion that Black boys don't have the ability to learn about accountability or empathy or conflict resolution, or, to healthily tap into their emotions. And I think that is 100% BS. I'd love to say the word, but we agreed going in, I'm not going to curse. So BS, okay? Like it's a whole lot of baloney. Let's go there with it. It's just not true. It can't be true, you know. I think as you'll hear a little bit in a little bit, a big factor in this is the way that, you know, this society treats young boys like they're men, right? And like they're older than they are, and because they look a certain way that they could handle more of a harsh punishment. And I think that at the end of the day, when we come back to the fact that they're boys and we continue to keep pushing that out there into the world for people, we really start to remember, like, you know, they don't know things like how to pause before reacting, and you know, they're not working that muscle all the time, right? Emotions are way louder and override logic the younger that you are, right? I say all the time that young people are just like adults. They can hang with adults. They simply have less language and more emotion around just how they're seeing the world, fitting in the world. And that's not something I don't think that should be, you know, we shouldn't be castrating our boys for, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it's all about how can we instill, you know, good models for them, and really make sure that they're able to get practice in these areas, as opposed to that practice entry point coming through correction or consequence.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing for me.
Yeah. So if we remember, no, right, that the prefrontal cortex is still under construction, right, up till mid to late 20s, then what we need to understand is that conflict resolution needs to be taught as a skill building process rather than a correction.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's used as correction as opposed to, we really need to teach you how to build this skill, because when we do, you're going to start to use it. But the way that we get them to start to use it is that we have to start building new neural pathways with them, because they've already got some neural pathways that have led them to the kinds of reactions that we're seeing, right? The kinds of things that legitimize violence and legitimize the kinds of heated, not even conversations, right? The arguments, the things that have been modeled for them. And we have to start rewiring so that they understand and we understand that the conflict resolution skills can be taught, they can be strengthened, and they can be reshaped. So we're not just managing conflict, we really are rewiring that. Many Black boys have had to practice defending themselves, protecting themselves, right? Responding quickly. We know in our culture, it is often we're credited with being able to respond quickly. We see that in everything, right? From hip hop to playing the dozens, which we still play, even the fighting that used to drive me crazy with our young boys. And I had to have conversations about why they do it. And for me, just trying to understand why it's important. And I think that that's part of it too, is asking the kinds of questions that help us to understand why these things are important and what they're developing in them. But they've had a lot of practice doing that, right? But they haven't had a lot of practice in just being able to stop and really apply the best skills to the situation at hand. So if we're developing these neural pathways, we need to know that they're not random, right? They're pattern and repetition wired into the brain, and they're practiced. And I gotta say, in their defense, in many cases, they've been necessary. It's what's been keeping them alive and surviving in situations that many of us, even as adults, have not had to handle. And even those of us who have not had to handle it in these times. Yeah. And these are times where I admit, grew up nothing like this. And so many of us as adults grew up nothing like this. And what we tend to do is to villainize our young people for the way in which they are reacting to the world that they're growing up in, with the skills that have been wired, right, and modeled by a lot of our adults. We tend to villainize them for it rather than help them to really develop new pathways. And I want us to visualize something. I want you to think about it. Hey, we're from New York City, from the Bronx in particular, right? Yes, Andrea, yeah. Bronx are always in the house. My sister's here, she's in the house, Bronx. But one of the things about us is we love shortcuts, right? We absolutely love them. And so we don't cross at the corner, at the light, like we're supposed to. We cross in the middle of the street. We're always looking for the hookup. Well, I gotta pay that price. Now come on, give me a deal, right? We love that.
Yeah, we really do. Yeah.
So you are going to find that we play that out in other areas of life. So inevitably, we're going to go to a park and we're going to see that there is this constructed path that we can walk, and then there's grass on the other side. But what we're also going to notice is if there's a fence, somebody has cut a hole in that fence, right, to get through. And somebody has developed a different pathway, right, to get to the other side. And when I say they developed a different pathway, I don't mean it's one person. The first person who walked that way, the pathway was not developed. It was just walked on. And then the second person, it walked on. Third, and it took a lot of people before that became an actual pathway. It's the same thing. We can't just tell our Black boys some conflict resolution thing, right? Think before you act, and expect that that's going to develop a neural pathway for them. It really is going to mean that if you're teaching conflict resolution, you're asking them to practice, right, what to say before conflict. I was big on that with my boys, like, before conflict happens. Why are we waiting? We know it's going to happen. And the reason why we're waiting is because most of us wish it would never happen. We hate conflict. We keep avoiding it. We keep saying, oh my gosh, I do not want to get into a conflict today. In fact, I often say to the people that I'm working with, I want you all, because you can react, right? I want you to raise your hand if you woke up today and said to yourself, I cannot wait to get into my first conflict today. Raise your hand if that was you. Andrea, I know that's not you.
I appreciate you, though. But yeah, like, no.
Most of us,
yeah, it's just not.
Don't let nobody mess with me today.
Yeah.
Not today.
Not today.
Right? That's usually what would let it be a good day.
Not today. Not today, and I'm not the one.
And I'm not the
one. Yeah, for sure. I'm not the one. I think Andrea said earlier, oh, yeah, she chose me, and I was not the one that day. I'm telling you. Yeah, bro, I get like that.
So not today, right?
Like that, right. For sure.
We absolutely don't practice before conflict happens. Yeah. We have to do that. We have to repeat tools over and over again and not get mad and frustrated because didn't I just teach you that? Didn't I tell you that? No, we have to continue the repetition of teaching, reinforcing, and then let them experience using these new tools and behaviors, because the more success, the more, again, you're building that neural pathway. They know that this can work, right? Along with what other things that they have in their toolkit that we have not taken out. One more important, adults have to model it consistently. Adults have to model it consistently, and we're just human. So we can, Justin knows he's caught me in a few moments, and I've had to really adjust and remind myself, I have skills that I can use in this moment, but they have to see us modeling that.
Yeah, and I think our boys are dealing with so many more negative role models on a daily basis, even through like Instagram and social media and all of these things that we're seeing all the time and can't turn off, right? So I think that that makes this all the more important, right? There's definitely a teacher or an administrator that's giving them problems for sure. That's guaranteed part of the game, and we want to keep them in the game as long as possible. That's what we're trying to do here. So, yeah, I think one of my favorite parts to talk about where adults get it wrong, it just keeps the attention off of us for a little bit as the young people, respectfully. But a lot of what we hear and I think that I can speak for a lot of young people in general when I say this, but we hear a lot of, well, I already told you. I already told you this is what we do and this is how we handle things. So, yada, yada, yada. That's it. If you didn't do that, then, that's on you. Right. And I feel like while there can be a place for that at times, there's just not one conversation that can be had for anything, especially when we're trying to build new pathways in our brains. Right. So, for instance, I know for me, an area where this shows up a lot is the sex talk, right? The sex conversation. We just think, okay, we'll get it all out at one point when they're in like seventh, eighth grade, right? And that's what they learn as a seventh and eighth grader will transfer into, their lives as men, right? And the reality is you keep that door open because there's going to be times where they're going to come to you or want to come to you with new findings, with new comings to things, as their bodies and their minds are growing and developing. And there's been too many times where our Black boys have not had that door open for them to come back to. So it's really about how do we keep that door open, especially in the midst of trigger and when, we are being human and, even when we're being the problem as young people, that can happen sometimes. And I think the biggest shift that we want people to make and to go from is, why does he keep doing this to what has he had the most practice doing? What has he repped the most? Think about the gym or think about when you're on a sports team, whatever it is, right? Or a hobby, right? You're getting reps in every single time you do it, right? Every single time you do that thing, you are getting better. And so a lot of us, because we haven't had that question asked, our brain just goes to what feels comfortable and what feels safe. And sometimes those things can be very destructive behaviors for the future that we are trying to build and that we are entitled to. Because we will work for it, but we're also entitled to have a place here and to live our best lives and, to speak life into our Black boys as they are constantly reminded of Black destruction, to be completely real.
Yeah. So if a young person has walked the path of reacting fast, getting loud, or defending themselves over and over again, that's not just behavior anymore. That's well-worn path in their brain, right? Because the brain under pressure goes to what it knows, right? And if this is what I know and I am under pressure right now, then it's not the behavior. And you don't erase a well-worn path by yelling at it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to myself here too, right? You don't replace that by yelling at it. You replace it by walking a new one again and again and again. And that may be hard. We may be asking you to have the patience of Job, maybe. But the truth is, when we can meet them there and say, okay, so this is how you reacted. Let's go over this skill again, or these skills again. Let's do it again and again. We are helping them to build that. But in order to do that, we need to really keep in mind what Black boys are struggling with first.
Yeah, right? we got a nice list here for y'all, but please, if there's anything that you feel is not on this list that we name, that you want to honor and bring forth, just add it to the chat, and we will definitely make sure that we say that just to bring it into the space with us. But from what we came up with as far as the things that we feel, Black boys are struggling with. And I think this was probably the hardest part for me because, I didn't have to do too much work, for myself. This is stuff that's in me right now, and I think the first thing, anger. A lot of our young Black boys are angry. I think that the day in which that we learn and find out that this system at every single turn is trying to destroy you is a very freeing yet very sad day. And I think that sadness, if it goes unchecked, if those tears don't come down, whatever it is, anger is the first thing that they're going to come up against after some of those feelings dilute a little bit, right? And so, and rightfully so. I mean, just the way in which we are attacked at every single system that makes up this big system, that'll scare someone, if you're really on that side of things. And so, rightfully so, our boys are angry for that. And I think another thing is acceptance. This is something we've been longing for. Our people have been longing for generations, right? We've been calling for acceptance, the right to be a human being, right? To be human enough to make a mistake and to get it wrong and to be here and be seen as worthy of a second chance, right? Like, I mean, just acceptance is something left and right that we know on a subconscious level and consciously could be stripped of us, even if we are accepted into some sort of environment, some sort of community, right? So there's also this idea that it won't last, right? And that's I think a really, really tough thing for our boys. Next, I'd say the low expectations set for them. You know what I mean? We still live in a world where, people really still think of us as just rappers or just athletes or just, servants, right? All of these things and people that should be grateful to get a crumb, right? And I think that as far as, our ability to dream and the healthiness that comes with dreaming and longing for better than and bigger than and more than what you've seen, is a good thing that we all as humans should have rights to. But we see time and time again, just through constant reminders that this is who you are, this is who you're going to be, and stay here unless you want to deal with some sort of real consequences. And that goes into my next thing on this list, which is our hypervigilance. You know what I mean? I think that, we are constantly, because we are on this side of the system, right? The backs to the walls, surrounded, right? Our perceptions of threats and safety and consequences surely make us afraid sometimes to even leave the house, even if it's to go and hang out with our friends, right? And to just be out in the world, enjoying yourself, right? And we deserve to live our lives. We deserve to live our lives in our best way, thriving, doing what we want, when we want, and not hermiting ourselves, right? Not keeping ourselves in our shell. And I think next would be, the models for manhood, to be completely frank. This was, I think, the toughest thing for me to come to, because we hear all the time, the ideas around standing on 10, handling business, you know what I mean? All that stuff. And a lot of that comes from, fighting and defending yourselves and that talk, right? Because we see that all the time in our schools, unfortunately, and with our boys. And I think that 100% every boy should learn how to defend themselves. I think that is, a non-negotiable for me, right? I think that it's really important, but really as a tool, the way that we're talking about these other tools, breathing, iMessages, paraphrasing, right? All these different things. We want people to exercise every possible healthy outcome before things could possibly turn into an unhealthy, unsafe kind of situation. And I feel like even though, we aren't the bullies in this conversation, I don't think of us as the Black people and the bullies in this conversation. We unfortunately give ammo to this system to classify us that way if we aren't moving through conflict as skillfully as possible. even if it just means starting with taking a breath when you start to notice that you're getting heated. That alone is breaking generational cycles. And so the more that we can just encourage these one tools, right? Here's a tool, here's a tool, here's a tool, here's a tool. The more that they feel access to these different things before running to what they feel safest doing, which often is fighting their way out of a corner.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And they need, our Black boys need culturally relevant tools too. I think that it is so important that we give them access to understanding the kinds of things that our ancestors did, right? That they can draw on. If you will see, we have our ancestors behind us, because everything that we do, we bring them in because we truly want everyone to understand that we didn't just appear here. We didn't, even in the generations, like if we talk about our grandparents, way before that, folks were doing things to make sure that they were able to survive and stay alive. Yeah. And some of that was resolving conflict in ways where they weren't having to resort to violence, where they were, really having to think and then employ skills. So the question is, how do you support families who utilize physical violence as a manner of how they express and protect themselves when it's the way that family survived? Yeah,
exactly.
And here's the thing. I experienced a whole lot of this when I was working in schools and working with people who work with family. I'm not villainizing everybody. I am saying, though, that one of the things that I've seen happen is that there's a tremendous amount of emphasis on using physical violence, and it's wrong. And you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And we started this out by saying to you, if the only thing you have in your toolkit is a hammer, well, we already know that everything then looks like a nail. You are going to hammer every single thing. We're not taking that hammer out. We're just trying to put as much on top of that hammer, as many skills as possible, so that when you reach in that toolkit, the first thing you don't pick up is a hammer. Like, there's so much in the way of that, right? That, oh, I could try this, I could try that. So I think that part of it is to understand why that's been so necessary for that family, why it has allowed them to survive. I used to tell teachers all the time, I come from a family of educators, and my dad worked in the schools, and he worked during the time when you went to the home. You did home visits to find out, well, why isn't he in school or she in school, right? And how are you? And what do you need as a family? And so I grew up understanding that you actually had to spend time understanding why these things were necessary. And I would ask my students all the time, I would say, if I'm going to a home, because I would go at times because we did conflict resolution, right? We're teaching these things. How do I navigate your neighborhood? Because I don't live there. They're experts in that. You know why they had to use the violence? Because, as they said, that's what keeps them alive. So help keep me alive. Tell me what to do, because I don't live in the neighborhood where that's required. Right. And I respect that that's an expertise that you have. So I'm not saying to you, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. What I'm saying to you is, are you open to adding to that? Are you open to some new ways of doing things that you can decide whether you're going to use them? Because I do not take that away. I do not want to have boys who need to have to throw hands to survive sometimes. So I don't want to turn them into, I just don't do that anymore. All I do is talk. I want them to be able to discern, you know what, in this situation, I think I could really talk my way through this. I could really
listen. Just be a vessel. Let this person do their thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the exact way, Craig, that I appreciate your question, but I think that's the exact way that we go about it. Really just trying to honor the fact that even up till this point that we got to meet, the skills and the tools that you've learned helped you survive, right?
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of honoring of that for our people. There is a whole lot though of, like you said, cut it out, or we're gonna give you the worst of the worst.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And knowing that there's something else that you want to do and be, right? And how you get there is going to require more than you knowing how to, I see that, beat the ass, right? He's going to beat your ass. Yeah, I get it. Yes, then you didn't fight. Knowing, more than knowing how to do that is important. And that really lends itself to, as Justin said, like the breathing, but also pause. There is no time to pause for folks. It seems like we do not train the brain to take a second. If we start teaching, tell yourself, I need a second. Tell the person that you are having this conflict with or this conversation with, I need a second, because it isn't always a life or death situation, right? Our boys get into conflicts. Let's think about what happened with Justin, that story at the beginning, right? That wasn't going to result in a fight. No. But it absolutely was a situation where he could have said, I need a second. The teacher, good Lord, she needed a second. She needed a full minute and a half, right? Just to be able to say, I need a second, and then to be able to then access what's happening with yourself, because that's the first place you want to go. Check in with you, because once our emotions, our physiology takes over, there's a very small window in which we can then regulate and then access some good decision making and then skills, right, that we want to use. Because once that physiology comes over us, then we are headed up the mountain. We call it anger mountain, right? And we're escalated. And so you got to know what's your escalation signals, right? And I would love people to put them in the chat. I'll tell you what mine are. Maybe that'll help you understand even better what I'm asking. But I know I could get heat in the back of my neck, and it's letting me know, girl, you are getting really upset right about now, right? My hands could start shaking. I could feel my heart racing at times. I'm a pacer too. I don't like to sit still to begin with. So if I start pacing, I know these are signals to me. If I choose to ignore those signals, then I'm no longer in power. I'm no longer right in charge of what happens next. My emotions are.
Yeah, so lose your say the more that you choose to not.
That's right.
Be skillful.
That's right.
For sure.
So I want to see in the chat. We can't be the only ones that have escalation signals.
Yeah, I know mine are I start to get like a headache or like a pulse almost in my head. Sweaty palms, you know what I mean, for sure. Maybe some twitching in my fingers. There's a whole bunch of stuff that could happen, but those are for sure the ones where I know, like, okay, this is like you're actively triggered right now, and what you do next really dictates where this goes.
So the reason we don't see it in the chat is because y'all don't know what your signals are. Is that what that is? What you don't know when you're escalated? What are your signals? Somebody, anybody, give me one thing that happens to you when you're starting to escalate. Oh, wow. I know what it is, but I don't know how to describe it. Okay. Yes. Heart race. Yes. Sure. That happens to me too. Absolutely. We all have them. We have been taught to ignore. I get quiet. Yeah. Tense up. So what's that saying? It's the quiet ones you gotta watch out for.
Clenched teeth, clenched hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe some grinding, teeth grinding.
Yes, definitely heart racing. Yes. So it's really tuning into that, because that's your signal. I'm gonna have to do something here, right? Otherwise, I am not going to be in control of this situation.
Oh, you'll love this. Craig said I'm a true Capricorn when I've hit my limit. That's real. I respect that, Craig. I hear you. That's real. Especially as a Taurus, I hear you. So, yeah, I think, my favorite skill that I've spent a lot of time on, right? That we're starting to talk about a little bit is, building that discernment muscle, right? Like really just the awareness to assess the situation, right? For really what's happening. I think that especially for those families, Craig, that you talked about and named, who are probably dealing with more threats of violence, threats of consequence, threats of just threats, you know what I mean, on a daily basis, they're probably thinking, well, like you said, like, this is just the way I'm just going to handle it because this seems to be the thing that works, right? Whereas not every situation calls for the comfortable thing, right? And so I think silence is really okay. I think active listening is a really, really good thing. I think you really get to you really gather a lot of data about where people are and what affects them and what hurts them when you're letting them have the ball in their court and share what's coming up. And I just think that our boys don't even know in those moments sometimes how much good information that they're missing that they're able to actually work with beyond what they're comfortable handling in that situation, right? So that discernment is huge, man. I it's not that I didn't have it with that in the time with that teacher, but I clearly wasn't strong enough in it to assess, like, wow, this is a grown adult who's just using their power to try to mess with me, right? I completely gave into that, and I did have to receive consequences for that. So, I want our boys to not have to deal with consequences in a perfect world, but at least the consequence to fit the crime.
Right. And also in active listening, right? I really believe in paraphrasing. And for me, the magic in paraphrasing is that you get to try to at least zero in on what is really happening here. What is the person really saying? What is the person actually upset about, or whatever the emotion is? And if you can draw that out when you're paraphrasing, I think that that's important. Reflecting it back, making sure you're hearing things correctly, so you know what to address. So also, oh wow, well, I was just getting ready to react to that in a way that just wasn't called for, right? That happens all the time. I see people get diverted because they really didn't check in. Let me just make sure I understand what it is that you are saying to me, right? So that I can come back and I can address that. And it's a skill that I don't think a lot of people do well, because people are just like, oh, that sounds corny, or that sounds phony, or that's not me. Make it you. Yeah. Make it you. We taught a lot of formulas when we teach conflict resolution. And what I've found is that if you allow the young people, well, how would you say it? Because I need you to paraphrase. I really want you to reflect back. How would you say it? We try to give a lot of different options, like, let me get this straight. So what I'm hearing is, so, yo, my man, what I'm hearing, like whatever it is, I just want you to make it yours, so that you, again, building that neural pathway, so that when the situation comes up, you're able to use it because you feel like this is who I am. This is how I would say it. And this is how I'm doing this skill.
Yeah, because of the constant visiting schools and dealing with our teachers and administrators, we did do a lot of role playing in our household, and hated every second of it when it was happening. But I promise you, the pathways exist now, 100%, and I'm so grateful that you were very adamant about us, acting it out, because we love to think, this is what we do when we're in it, and then you get in it, it's a different ball game. You know what I mean? That's in all things in life. So yeah, I really appreciate the reps.
And Justin actually has grown an affection for a particular skill that it took me a long time to really like. All right.
That is the first time you've ever admitted that,
Just
personally or publicly.
Here's the thing, because I don't even think you've heard this story, right? So the skill I'm talking about is iMessages.
Yeah.
And I would teach them. And I honestly have to say, I'm just like, I don't know, that's just not me. It just sounds so formula, corny or whatever. And so I said to a class, a group of teachers actually that I was training, I'm like, you know what? I'm teaching you, I'm going to go home tonight and I'm really going to use iMessage, or the next time that I can get an opportunity. A conflict rises. And so what happens? I go home and a conflict arises between me and my husband. And I said, okay, perfect time. I delivered the most perfect iMessage. And my husband, who was in the work as well, he looked at me and he said, do not use that conflict resolution crap on me. And I was like, whoa, what just happened here? And the reality is that one didn't work with him. Yeah. But we were able to use other skills. So what I tell that to say, especially when I'm working with young people and Black boys, I just like, make it yours, right? And so...
And it's not that you got rid of the tool.
Right.
You simply just moved it to a different spot in your toolbox.
That's right.
Right? That's all it is. You know what I mean? Just like, what tools do I really need the most access to, and how can I keep them as close as possible? And yeah, I love iMessages personally. I think it just keeps the ball in your court. It keeps your emotional regulation your responsibility. And it keeps the way in which that those emotions get expressed your responsibility, right? And so I think a lot of our boys are hearing stuff like, use your words, or I can't read your mind, right? I think it's so easy to call out the negative behaviors in someone else, or the behaviors in someone else that made us act in a way that honestly supports the negative throwing back and forth of emotional responsibility, because it just feels safer. It feels safer if we start with you to then bring me into it, right? And I think we need more of, I felt disrespected when, I get triggered because. Here's the moment where it went from a good conversation to me feeling unsafe, and really being able to use that model and keep the ball in your court, as we are just working to build a better relationship with conflict, as well as the negative emotions that come up during conflict. And I think my favorite analogy with this is like the first example, use your words, I can't read your mind, right? That's like playing taps. I don't know if anyone knows the game taps, remembers the game taps, but you're essentially holding a ball up, you're trying to keep the ball up, and you're throwing it back and forth between you and a partner, or you and a few other partners. And you have to jump while you're throwing it and not let the ball fall, right? And there's no real landing. There's no real whatever, because you got to keep the ball out. And I think that when you hear things like use your words, I can't read your mind, that's just deflecting emotional responsibility and putting it back onto your other partner, so that you don't have to sit with and stay in your stuff. Whereas I felt disrespected when, I got triggered when, here's where this became this for me, really to me is way more of a game of catch, right? A game of catch is where, you're intentionally thinking about, how do I throw an effective ball over to my partner so that they're able to catch it, get into their motion, and bring it back to me? And we want to apply that thinking to when we're in high stakes conflict. Really sit with the things that you're hearing, really breathe before you start to put things back out there, right? As words and actions are energy, right? And these things get returned to us, whether we like it or not. There's no say in how they get returned to us. They're going to come back. And so, that's my favorite one for sure. iMessages, it's allowed me to get really comfortable with the idea of responsibility of my emotional regulation.
So we're going to say 3 last things. One is you got to normalize the strong emotions. They should be having strong emotions, right? And we try to get them to suppress that, right? Calm down. Stop being angry. Why are you always so angry? We can validate. I see you're angry. And then we can guide. Let's figure out what to do with that anger, or whatever the emotion is. Let's figure out what to do with that, right? How do you want to express that if you're in a conflict situation or conversation. The other thing is curious questioning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think simply asking yourself, what's my role in all of this, especially this conflict, is a lifesaver. I can at least say for me, that's been a lifesaver. I think it's 100% a great way to run back to what your initial response would have been or what your trigger was in that moment and reframe it with the context that comes in through taking a breath, through listening, gathering your data and all that stuff to then put back out the most effective response that you possibly can to where your message is delivered. And even if you may not get the results that you wanted or that your young Black boys wanted, they still feel confident in the fact that they handled themselves the way that they should have.
Yeah, and then the last thing is role play, real life scenarios, right?
Yeah.
Let's run through what could happen if, or what did happen, and then reflecting after the situation. What did happen? What did I do that I liked? Right? What would I do differently? And how do I want to show up the next time? But again, it's practice, repetition, right? That's building the new neural pathways. That's how we do it. One thing at a time, over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Yeah. I know there's a lot of information.
Appreciate y'all just, hanging in, knocking out. It is a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where we're at with these things.
So I don't know if folks have any questions, or Craig, we can turn it back over to you to do your thing.
I think this is a great opportunity for those who might have questions, curiosities. Let's leverage your genius, please. So we're organic here. So whoever would love to ask questions, engage, let's go.
And you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you too.
You,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, all of you.
Yes.
I know that one of the things that I'm really thinking about in this time is we're seeing so many examples and from a social media perspective of violence being gratified or rewarded. We're also seeing that there are certain behaviors that are very demonstrative, disrespectful, that are fine. Like, we don't watch shows unless there's this conflict, that there's this edginess to it. And so I'm curious about, how do you balance out reality experiences versus what we are really dealing with here. I think that part is something that I know so many folks are wrestling with.
Yeah. Thank you,
Teresa. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it is. It does have to be a balance. That means we do have to take on the role of modeling these behaviors even more actively. And I know that's a lot of work, because we too are under stress and pressure as adults. And we too may not have been taught the best skills ourselves, right? We may have learned it in real time as well. Thank you, Andrea. And, it's just, it really is a matter of then determining I've got to create this balance. So what does that mean? It means that I spend time modeling. I spend time having conversations where we can use the skills. I know that my family, including my husband, used to hate when I used to do workshops and I would come home and I'm like, okay, we're going to try all of these. We're going to try something. And we would do family meetings, circle. But I just wanted to be able to have that balance in their lives, because I know they were watching Jerry Springer. This is long before the social media where you can actually watch actual fist fights, which I was appalled that that's actually what so many young people and even young adults are doing as well. But it's really dedicating that time to say, okay, we can be multicultural citizens of the world. So that means that if I can't stop them from going on social media and watching whatever it is that I think is just really violent, then I can at least give them a world in which when you're with me, when you're at home or wherever, or if we're in schools, that this is a different way of working their way through the world. And that if I won't invalidate the other, but hope that you have enough evidence of what I'm showing, what I'm modeling, what we're living, to see that it will most likely get you further. The other one might get you more likes, but this will get you further.
Yeah. And I think for me, being the young person that has this the access 24/7 to, just these heinous things that are on the internet, like there was a time I want to just speak to the realness of uh what you're speaking to, Craig. Like there was a time where like the dark web was like the only hub for looking at anything that was like gruesome that's going on in the world. We can just load up Instagram now.
Yeah.
And I just think, like as far as the hubs created for negativity, for violence, for gruesome acts and all these things, it's just very important to go back to the opposite. Just what are the things that make you feel good? What are the things that help you don't not think about those things sometimes, right? Because I think escape is a good thing when used correctly with limitations and understanding of yourself when too far is too much and things like that. But I know for me, I see this stuff all the time. I see it outside of my house all the time, but I see it on my phone all the time. And I just know unplugging sometimes and just putting my headphones in, go for a walk, or go hit some golf balls, whatever it is, go play some basketball. That really does a lot for me. So I think sometimes just bringing it back is really, really important. Home being the things that you like to do and you feel comfortable doing.
Sorry, can I jump in really quick? I'm sorry. I just want to say thank you. This was awesome. I'm a mom raising two Black boys in a predominantly white neighborhood in Massachusetts. So this is very helpful. But I struggle with like instilling all these tools in my sons and drilling it into them and helping them to develop these conflict resolution skills. And I struggle with balancing that with just allowing them to be, because I noticed that they're in a school district where they're probably the only Black boys in their classes. And I'm noticing all the other kids around them, they're just allowed to just be. They're allowed to feel emotions and work through those emotions. They don't have to like double check themselves and course correct in the moment. So for me, I struggle with like allowing them to just be kids. And what, because some, developmentally, some things are in their age are better. It's better through experience, right? But I know that some of these spaces aren't safe for them. But I see the juxtaposition between their peers being comfortable and them, their parents probably not having to have these kind of conversations with them, and that freeness that I see in their peers. So I guess I want like you all's opinion from some of the Black men and you too as well. Well, how do you balance that as a parent? To let them just be human little kids and enjoy their childhoods, and also balance that with some of these skills that you talked about.
Yeah, I think
this is perfect for you.
I know.
Perfect for you.
I think that one of the things, and I've had to learn, I've had to, trial and error, still lots of error. But I think one of the things is being able to validate the feelings that come up for them and for you, in that this is how you, as a parent of Black boys, right? Black children have to really work with them, that they have to be prepared on all levels. And one of those things is the skills. So when they get into a situation where they don't use the skills, it's really about being able to help them, again, reflect on the situation. Let's talk about that. But I want to hear from you why you chose not to, because I think it's important for our kids to understand that there is choice in these things. And so rather than go in on them because they made a choice that might have been dangerous or scary to you, but not to them, that we just really want to be able to help them reflect on that. So, why that choice? What came up for you? What were you thinking about? What do you think about now? in terms of having made that choice, and then to be able to sit with sometimes just letting them be okay with having made that choice. I think he deserved to get hit in the mouth, right? Or what? Right. You know? And being able to say, reinforcing, I know that you know skills, right? I know that there are things, what else you could have done. We know that, right? As long as I know that you could have done something different, then let's keep talking.
We just want our boys to step up to the plate a little bit easier. That, you know, and feel a little bit more comfortable stepping up to that plate and doing it again over and over again a little bit easier, right? And so I think that's really important, right? To say at least, okay, didn't go well the way we wanted it to that time. You know, especially when it comes to like school and stuff, because they have to go back to school. They have to go back and see that teacher, that bully, whatever it is. And just saying, you know, all right, so here's what we're gonna try next time. You know, and then, you know, you do the process over and over again. The reps are really, really important. And this was something that we struggled with, you know, that I don't know if you struggled as much with my brother, but I know we struggled for sure.
Justin wants to be Justin. Always has.
I want to be, I want to be me.
Little.
Yeah, I want to be me. No one's gonna tell me to be something else. That's just the way I want to live. And unfortunately, I know there are limitations to that, and there's a way to do that to really just protect everyone's peace of mind, you know, because we don't want to trigger you, you know, as our parents, and we don't, you know, all those things, but it is such a hand in hand working together kind of thing. So, you know, definitely sending, you know, a whole lot of good energy to you and your boys while you actually work through that.
Yes. And we also are doing, I see Craig put it in the chat, if you could sign up for our parenting workshop that we are hosting on the 28th of this month. And if you can't do the 28th, we're hosting on the 31st. The 31st is a Sunday. It's in the afternoon, 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And the 28th is a Thursday, and that's in the evening, 6:30 to 8 p.m. So you can do that there. And I see Craig shared, thank you, Craig, shared a resource also that might be helpful. And I love when we're sharing resources with one another. So yes, thank you. You're going to, will also be able to have access to us to practice, because that's one of the things that we absolutely love to do, is to have people be able to practice the skills that we're giving them in real time and apply them to their real life situations. So we invite you to sign up for that. And yes, thank you for anybody sharing that out, because it really is important. Thank you. It's a blessing to be here.
Absolutely. Still reciprocated.
Yeah.
So reciprocated.
Yeah, because we just believe in being able. I love the name Black Boy Joy. I think that there's got to be joy, more joy for all of us. Certainly, I really want more joy for our Black boys. I can remember when I first started out in this working a summer program, and I worked it over about 7 years, and I would watch the boys go from these joyous, playful little boys to that get to about 11 or 12. And I remember sitting down in particular with a couple of them, and I'm like, I'm noticing just like you look like the world is on your shoulders. And I remember one in particular saying, it's just, you know, boys messing with me. It's just what they do. It's just, you know, it's what they do at this age. And I felt like there's got to be something that we can do. And I was teaching conflict resolution, and they loved it. They really, truly did. And so many of them used it, put it in their toolkit. But there is that time and that place for our Black boys where the world, it feels like the weight of the world is on their shoulders. And we have to be able to get skilled enough ourselves to open up that world to them, particularly in conversation, because it doesn't always have to be a conflict. It could really be, you can use these skills in deep conversation, and that's powerful for them.
And it comes up, the choice, you know, like Martin or Malcolm, like we said at the top, am I going to handle this way? Because this seems to be the thing that works, or that's going to get me this, or that's going to get these kids off me, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or am I going to go this way where, I may be safe, I may be whatever, but I may not feel good in me, right? And regardless, I think we're just trying to add more options of answers to the list. Like as you said, we could be multicultural beings and have layers to us, and all these things. And so, yeah, it's really, really important. And I actually went through the program as well, so I can at least vouch. It worked, and we got some strong Black men out there, and I can imagine there's just so many beautiful, strong young Black men, Black males that have come through Black Women Joy as well. So,
and don't give up. Yeah, don't give up. Because it was not overnight with Justin. It was not overnight with Justin and myself. Now,
no, it was not.
I know my sister remembers this. When he was 3, I bought him a shirt that said "little in size and big in attitude," and that absolutely defined who he was.
I don't remember the shirt, but okay, sounds about right. So I'll run with that. But yeah, absolutely.
Don't give up.
There's no point in dimming that. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It doesn't happen overnight, but it happens every night. Yes, Andrea remembers the
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Coming to about 5 minutes, Craig.
Yeah, let's see. Well, I just want to first, let's give them love, let's just make sure we give the love to both of them, Dr. Lynne and soon to be Dr. Justin. Who knows, for them, really pouring into us and pouring into our community. And for both of you, you're just powerful beyond measure. I want to thank you for your generosity, your wisdom, your willingness to pour into our community. You are not just the conflict closers, y'all. Y'all have opened up something beautiful in all of us. And I appreciate that there's a great candor about your real life experiences that you share with us. But I think that there are some tools, or I call them crowns of insight, that I think can be very powerful for all involved. And so I want to share something really quickly. I'm going to share a couple of things for the community. Am I slowing down? Yep. My social, right? It just kind of paused. Is that what happened?
You're all good.
You're good.
All right. So a couple of things. One is for those who are here and those who have joined us from the replay. I want you to think about what I call these 3 crowns of insight. And I'm going to try to share this and see whether or not it's going to do it or not. I want to see whether or not it's going to let me win today. There we go. All right. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And so tonight you had an opportunity to experience a masterclass. And so I think about, what do I now understand more clearly about Black and Brown boys, their humanity, and my role in their lives? And what might that be? And if there's something that felt compelling for you, place that in the chat, or you can hold that in your heart. Or what might be your crown of action? And so what will I try, apply, or shift in my real world practice within the next 7 days? And for me, role play was so important. As a teacher, as an uncle, as now a godfather, it is important for me to role play behind the scenes. I want them to walk through scenarios. I want them to talk about anger, emotions. I want to have the container where if you're going to push boundaries in front of me. I need to see how you show up. I need to see how you smell. And I also need you to go out with with the kind of language and tools and support you need. Some of us used to call that the talk, right? And so how do we ensure that our young boys and young males and men feel like they are equipped to know how to walk out into the world with the kind of tools and insight they need? And then what might be a crown of awareness? What do I need to unlearn in order to do that work well, without harm and without ego? And that is why I shared the Masterclass workbook in the chat for those who were here, and for those who were like, Craig, I can't believe you up and shared something that I'm like, you need to be in the room, baby. You need to be in the room. Let's see what is happening. Okay, so I shared a masterclass workbook. So there's what I call like the masculinity ecosystem, and just looking at the complexity of that. And there's a self-assessment tool on tab 2 that allows you to really examine, like, what are your notions around masculinity and manhood? Who is part of the village that creates that container for what masculinity or maleness and that presentation looks like? And it's designed for you to have that self-assessment for you. And if you want to sit and talk to your boys or other folks who are in your care community, that it gives you some places to start talking and engaging in real dialogue about, here's how I want to shape my young boys and young men to grow, but here's some areas that I might want to examine for myself or those who are around me and around my son. Before we close out, is there anything else that Dr. Justin and Dr. Lynne, that y'all want to share and bestow upon the folks before we close out? Because I love to call it as it might be.
Yes, I wanted to make sure that everybody tuned in. I know I sent you some episodes from our E360 TV show called Working It Out Across Generations. Every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, we talk all things conflict, and we talk across generations, that we have found out things about each other, stories we had never shared with each other by doing that show. And there's all kinds of conflicts that we talk about. We talk about, can parents and children be friends? We talk about, do elders still have the same respect or get the same respect that they had in the past? We talk about social media. Is it harmful, helpful, cell phone? I mean, we talk about all kinds of conflicts, and it's fun. And sometimes we get a little bit into it, which is real as as well. And
I'm with this person all the time, y'all. You gotta just remind yourselves of that. Like, it'll happen, and we're family. Like, it's gonna happen.
Okay, because they'll see in real time. Yeah. Oh, okay. They can get on each other's nerves, and then they can work it through, work it out.
For sure. And I think for me, we are just such a remarkable people. I mean, oh my gosh, the things that we continue to do, the things that we've done, the bar that we keep setting higher and higher as generations come and go. Like, it's just, word, for real. She loves to touch the electronics, and that's what I was assigned to do. And I'm like, you can come on, let me have my role. You gotta let them stay clean. But I mean, we are just such a powerful, beautiful, resilient, just advocate worthy, like ally worthy, just all of these things as a people. And it saddens me sometimes to know that, we ourselves sometimes don't know or remember those things. So any chance that I get to, speak life into our people, speak positive into our people, I'm going to take that. We're going to take that. So just to know that y'all exist is so beautiful, so amazing. And I already know the journeys that it took for y'all to even just get here tonight. So just thank you so much for being here. I hope this is not the last time that, we get to work together and work alongside each other. Craig, you are an amazing person, amazing man, and just an absolute role model to so many young Black males, especially going to add you to my list as well. And you really built something beautiful here, and it's just such an honor to be a part of. So everyone that makes up this space, from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
And I want to shout out Latera. Thank you for supporting. Love it. Rashid, Jorge, Leslie, my sister, Teresa, Andrea, my sister. Thank y'all for supporting. Really appreciate everyone who showed up tonight. Yeah. Sure. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes. And anybody watching the replay, check us out. Yes.
Well, thank y'all. Thank everybody who joined in real time. Those who will see this in the replay, we're going to put all the things out, share out with the ecosystem, along with all of the contact information, registration information for future events, and all of that. And we want y'all to go out and continue to love on yourselves, continue to be a light, to not start with you first and then to the others who you love and hold dear. And we will have our next session on June 4th. And we're going to be continuing this conversation around restorative relationships and raising whole boys. So that's with Arthur Thompson. And we will see you all soon. So thank y'all. Y'all take care.
All right. Thank you. Awesome.